Cosmic Girl 101 signing on for the Capricorn Rising Astrology for the month of June 2024. We're going to be talking about the transits of the planets, what they're doing in the sky, how they're impacting particular houses in your natural astrology chart. And we're going to be talking about the new moon and the full moon and where the sun's transiting also. Opening up the month of June, we've got that sun continuing its transit in the sign of Gemini, your sixth house. So the last couple, or maybe a week and a half, Capricorn rising, you've been dealing with the sun in Gemini already, and this continues until June 20. When the sun is in Gemini, it's busy because Gemini is very much about connecting, but it's a double-bodied sign. It's mutable, changeable, adaptable, lots of changes. We're going left, no, let's go right instead, or do we? We're contemplating. There's always a duality connected to Gemini. And in your sixth house, there's always changes or two options of possibilities connected to the sixth house topics being work, your career, co-workers, also your daily routine, your habits, so your health, and has to do with animals, smaller animals, and also to do with services that we provide to other people. So when the sun's transiting in the sign of Gemini, your sixth house Capricorn rising, it's busy, it's loud, and there's a plethora of stimulation going on connected to movement, travel. Your cerebral space is really just on fire. There's so much mental activity and stimulation. So watch your mental health when the sun's transiting here in Gemini, your sixth house. And also a lot to do with documentation, red tape, information. It's like the overstimulation place, that sun in Gemini in your sixth house. So way too much information and way too much intel trying to be digested because there's so many options and stimulation connected to what you're doing on a day-to-day basis and work colleagues and services to other people. So this continues. It's a very exciting, excitable transit at Sun in Gemini, your sixth house, Capricorn rising. On June 20 until July 22nd, that sun's going to be leaving your seventh house and ingressing into the sign of Cancer. And this is your seventh house. And this is an angular house. You're the first house, and the seventh house is the opposite to you. So it's a big deal, Capricorn rising, and the sun's transiting in your seventh house for 4 weeks, because this is all about others. And then what does the sun do? It illuminates the consistency, the constant, the obvious, and the day-to-day. So for 4 weeks, it's very obvious about your agreements, negotiations, contracts, your open enemies, relationships and partnerships that you're connected to. This is what's going to be highlighted for you for 4 weeks. And it's also the summer solstice time, so it's the beginning of summer in the northern hemisphere and the beginning of winter in the southern hemisphere. And the summer solstice time is connected to light, expression, joy, feeling in flow and organic with the world we're connected to. And all about your relationships, partnerships, agreements, contracts, negotiations, and open enemies. Boy, oh boy, you are about to have a very stimulating time connected with others. And it's going to be obvious at the end of the transit who's benefiting your energy and who's draining it. The lunations for the month of June, on the 6th of June, there's a new moon in the sign of Gemini, your sixth house. And just for fun, we've got Venus conjuncting the moon the same day. Now, a new moon is the beginning of a new lunation cycle. It's where we're trying to identify individual expression. And the moons are all about being in the new moon phase, behind the scenes, unseen, and it's dark. And so we've got Venus here in the new moon phase. It's very, very insular, very private. We only allow people in that we feel are of privilege connected to revealing our emotions, our motivations, and our own little weird worlds. So there's something here that's brewing behind the scenes, Capricorn rising, that you're not quite ready to reveal yet. Something might be changing in your value system connected to services to other people, or providing or helping people, your own health issues as well, your career, what you do for work, and co-workers. There's something changing here in connection to how you value them, or more importantly, trying to develop more value individually for yourself to stand out from a crowd. The 21st of June is a full moon in the sign of Capricorn, so this is your first house. And what's our first house, Capricorn rising? It's our angular place. It's a significant part of the chart, the first house, because it's how people view us. They can see us. It's a very visual place. And it also has a lot to do with our own physical bodies, our psychology, because it affects us. Our psychology and how we think and connect is how others see us through our psychology. It also has a lot to do, that first house, with how we express ourselves individually. And you are seen very visually at the time of this full moon, quite clearly to others. I wouldn't be surprised, Capricorn rising on the 21st of June, if you are changing things up, or again trying to individuate from a relationship, an agreement, or a contract or negotiation, or just aware of the push-pull energy between you and a significant other. Planet Mercury, well, he's busy in the month of June. Well, Mercury's always busy because this planet is always on. Even when the planet is retrograde, he's on. He's always moving and doing something. Mercury is a very cerebral planet. It's all about connection. It's how we're thinking. A lot of movement and action, change, travel, movement. Well, Mercury has been transiting in the sign of Taurus, and your fifth house of joy and pleasure, and then we've got him going into a different sign. So when Mercury changes signs, means that there's a change in your house system as well, and there's a big change energetically for Mercury, that planet. Now, this ingress occurs only until June 17. So from the 3rd of June to June 17, Mercury is going to fly through the sign of Gemini, its home sign. It likes being in Gemini, but it's like a pit stop, literally. It's so quick. So expect from the 3rd of June until the 17th of June, Capricorn rising, your 6th house lit up like a Christmas tree of busyness. You are going to, if you do struggle with mental health issues, you are on high alert here to take in grounded, practical steps every day connected to meditation, going for walks, really removing yourself from the noise and distraction. You may want to be very diligent and discerning in disconnecting from too much stimulation and noise when Mercury is ingressing in the sign of Gemini, your 6th house of career, co-workers, services you provide to other people, health and regime. This is busy, 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 active time. So, forewarned is forearmed. I'm guessing if you are listening to this and you are into astrology and possibly tarot, even if you are into tarot, there is a tarot reading for your sign, sun sign, uploaded here on Cosmic Girl 101 YouTube channel. You may want to check that out, what's going on for your month of June through the tarot. But this is busy, super, super busy. The same day that Mercury ingresses into the sign of Gemini, its home sign, it conjuncts Jupiter, which has just ingressed into the sign of Gemini, your 6th house, for a 1-year stay. Now, Gemini is meeting up with Jupiter. Talk about split decisions, too much intel. This is a day to be aware of. Just trust your instincts, not the hype, not the information. You be very discerning on this day. The 12th of June, Mercury squares Saturn in Pisces, which is Saturn's transiting in Pisces, your third house, Capricorn rising. So Mercury squaring Saturn could have you feeling very much aware about, I'm suffering too much, pulling and pushing in different directions. That third house is a busy place in your local environment, a lot of travel and movement. And Mercury squaring that Saturn from your sixth house of work and other people and services and your health. So it just feels like the 12th is a really jarring day, and look, the planets are here to assist us. You may need to slow down or make a decision connected to not being overly stimulated or pulled into too many different directions. Again, Mercury in its home sign flying through Gemini, massively overstimulation stuff going on for all of us on the planet, but for you in particular, it's really affecting your local environment and where you move every single day. Something going on, what's in a daily space. There's a problem here on the 12th that maybe you could try to get a grasp of before this happens, before Mercury gets into the sign of Gemini, because you want to be able to discern where you can say healthy no's on your energy time, so you're not pulled and pushed and pulled into too many different directions. June 17, Mercury is going to ingress into the sign of Cancer until the 2nd of July, 2024. And so this is going to be an ingress for Mercury into your 7th house of relationships, negotiations, agreements, contracts, open enemies. This is a place where it's all about other people and how you shake hands, sign on the dotted line, put a ring on it, and commit. This is where we commit to others that are literally somehow going to benefit us. This is that 7th house. And this is where we go into agreements because we can see benefits with others. So when Mercury is ingressing, transiting here, and as you can see with the date time frame, from June 17 to July 2nd, Mercury's flying through Cancer. There's so much momentum going on connected to Mercury. Very, very busy time. So where's Mercury going into that 7th house for those few weeks? Capricorn rising is all about amping up connections and conversations, red tape, travel and action connected with other people. And Mercury is also very agile, swift and quick. So there could be some massive left turns or acute changes going on with others connected to agreements, negotiations, contracts, partnerships, relationships. Forewarned is forearmed. Things are really dynamic for you in your chart as a Capricorn rising in the month of June. The same day, just for fun, that Mercury is going to be conjuncting Venus in Cancer, your 7th house. So Mercury Venus conjunction, this is about let's move on our pleasure zone. What makes us feel good? Let's sign on the dotted line. Let's get that loan and agree to elope or agree to get married. It's as simple as that. Mercury Venus together. Stimulated, communicating, taking action, connected to pleasure. The 21st of June, Mercury is sextiling Mars in Taurus. Not so much of a big deal. It's an easy aspect, meaning it's a sextile. How the two planets are talking to one another, that is an aspect. So Mercury, Mars, movement, action, talking, our cerebral landscapes with Mars, action, movement, bold steps forward, being naive, being abrupt, in a sextile. In Taurus, your 5th house of joy, pleasure, investments, romantic relationships, children, the house of where we get creative and let our freak flag fly, the house connected to sports and athletics. So this day on the 21st, which we all know is the day of the full moon in Capricorn, your 1st house, this day, because it's trining your 5th house to your 1st house on the day of the full moon as well, looks as if there's a significant agreement, negotiation, or relationship that's highlighted on this day that might be deliciously and devilishly fun. You may also be swept away in a almost Neptunian illusionary moment. So forewarned is forearmed. Something quite yummy could be going on here on the 21st, but it could all fizzle out very quickly too. The 26th of June, we see Mercury trining Saturn in Pisces, your 3rd house. So this is nice because a trine is an easier aspect. An aspect, how the planets are talking to each other, how they see each other. They are agreeing. Mercury and Saturn are agreeing on cementing something concrete in your 3rd house with a commitment through communication, education, cousins, siblings, people that you perceive as family, your local environment. We are on board with shaking hands, signing on the dotted line and agreeing that something is going to have longevity connected to the 3rd house topics of agreement. Now Mars, that planet being bold, it's all about the drive and let's get this going. It's transiting Aries, opening up the month of June, your 4th house. And Mars is at home in Aries, so it's very strong. And this transit is tracking that 4th house until the 9th of June. So there's about to be a change up for Mars. So Mars in the 4th house, which actually squares you as a Capricorn rising, so it's a square aspect. So trouble with family, disconnection with family, feel like there's conflict, problems with real estate, property concerns, negotiations, ancestry, family. This is your 4th house is our sanctuary. It's not a very visual place. It's where we go to rejuvenate. And with Mars transiting here quite strongly, it's almost as if we're trying really, really hard to not get into fights with family or disrupting our sleep or rest or our sanctuaries. We're trying hard to get on top of, our foundations and feeling secure, connected to family and the real estate and property concerns that you may or may not have been dealing with, but I'm saying you would have had this at the very least highlighted somewhere along the line with Mars transiting that 4th house of conflict with family, home, real estate, property concerns, ancestry, your sense of sanctuary, your sense of peace, Something's been difficult or difficult times at times, not all the time. But also Mars, we need Mars to cut out the crap. So you might have been able to really loosen up the bonds connected with you and others that have felt like they've been holding on too tight or way too long. And that might have been helpful for you. Well, on the 9th of June, Mars is leaving your 4th house and ingressing into the 5th house, which is Taurus, until July the 20th of 2024. So this is a longer transit. Mars transiting that 5th house of joy and pleasure, children, creativity, investments, gambling, sports, athletics, the place of where we really do connect with romantic partners. So Mars ingressing into the 5th house can have you really stepping up your dating game or really making a concerted effort to pursue romantic partners or romance, pursue investments, really get back into sport and athletics or a health regime. You might be ready to expand the family, or there might be new family members coming in connected to children when Mars is transiting that 5th house. And look, it's a quick transit. It's not going to be a long, but you knowing that Mars is going in that fifth house of joy and pleasure, Capricorn rising, trining your first house is beneficial for you. So enjoy it. The 22nd of June, the day after that full moon, that Mars is going to trine the moon in Capricorn, your fifth house to your first house, which I just mentioned. Favorable, great. Why? Because Moon Mars together, this combination is all about being brave enough to reveal your truth, being brave enough to understand that there's conflict with you and others, and not being afraid to say it. So I like this day on the 22nd and especially the 21st as well. Now, planet Venus, this is the planet connected to love. Sure. She's also about unity and uniting with other people, which she wants to get people connected. And a lot to do with self-worth and self-value, that Venus, knows her worth, knows her value. Which is then transiting in Gemini, having a time of her life. As an astrologer, Venus in Gemini is fun. Like, you want Venus at this party in Gemini. You need her because she's having the time of her life, connecting. She's sassy, she's bold, she's really loving interacting and connecting with other people. So there's a lot of stimulation overdrive with Venus in the sign of Gemini. Your sixth house of work, health, regimes, co-workers, services you provide to other people. So I would imagine that this has been pretty good, or you've started to establish some boundaries that you need to make connected to your values and self-worth with those sixth house topics. On the 4th, Venus conjuncts the Sun. Big deal. Venus-Sun conjunction. It's all about illuminating what's the constant in your workplace. What's the constant in your day-to-day that is highlighting is the juice worth the squeeze. The 8th, we see Venus squaring Saturn in Pisces, your third house. So 6th and third house in a square. Yeah, okay. All this simply means, Capricorn rising, is Venus is trying to, really kick her heels up and connect and find that happy medium in self-worth and self-value connected to others. But the environment that we're in, or the people in it, are basically saying no to change or being resistant to change. The 17th, we see Venus leaving the sign of Gemini and ingressing into the sign of Cancer, your 7th house, until July the 11th of 2024. So Venus now going in the 7th house in Cancer. This transit, Venus in the 7th house. Venus finds her joy in the 5th house. So in traditional ancient astrology. So when Venus is going into the 7th house, it's sextiling that place. So she's really good at understanding how other people or others' valuables assist her in joy and pleasure, and feels like the investment is worthwhile to her. So Venus transiting in the 7th, opposite your first house, going into that angular house, is always going to be about where you are going to see a lot of obvious moments and potentials connected to financial aspects with relationships, partnerships, agreements, and contracts, or the self-worth of them. Is there value in them? This is what's highlighted for you when Venus is transiting that 7th house until July 11, 2024. Well, on the 29th, at the end of the month, Venus is sextiling Mars. Now, Mars and Venus in a sextile is good. They're opposites, but they're sextile, so there's harmony here. In Taurus, your 5th house of joy, pleasure, investments, high-risk gambling, creativity, children. Something's matching up here, Capricorn rising, that's quite nice for you. Why is it nice? Because the 5th house trines your first house, so it's impacting you. So something quite lovely is coming your way when you have the 29th of June coming around. Mark that date in your calendar. it's a good one. The planets, let's have a quick mention about the planets. We've got Pluto retrograde in Aquarius, which is your 12th house Capricorn rising. So retrograde outer planets, not much of a really big deal. It is a big deal, but it isn't a big deal because they're super, super slow transits, those outer planets. So Pluto's still doing his magic in the 12th house for you. Neptune is direct in the sign of Pisces, your 3rd house. Uranus is direct in Taurus, your 5th house. Jupiter's in the sign of Gemini, your 6th house in detriment. And Saturn in Pisces at the end of the month, June 29, is going into a retrograde, your 3rd house, until November the 15th. Saturn slowing down in the 3rd house can have you feeling like the chains have been released. The doors aren't locked, the gates are open to new communities, new environments, new information, new courses, cousins, siblings, and travel in general. Enjoy the transit of Saturn slowing down and loosening up the grip of no stoppages and delays in your 3rd house. Cosmic Girl 101 signing off. I trust you find some value in the report this month, Capricorn rising. Biggest thing for me that's standing out this month for you as an astrologer with your chart is the angular houses being activated, the 1st house and the 7th house. Super important. They're going to have, the 7th house is really going to have you hyper aware of how others impact you psychologically, how others see you, how others are impacting you physically, how you're even seen. And also how you may want to individuate and stand out and have a lot more autonomy and self-determination when it comes to individual pursuits connected with other people. So that's the biggest thing that stands out for me for you as a Capricorn rising, and it's significant because it is an angular house. And also with the sun transiting your relationship zone, and it's only a 4-week window given, but it's super important because that sun is the constant and it's what is lit up like a Christmas tree. So you should be really onto it by the end of, July. Who or what is not working in your world, getting to the 7 health topics of agreements, negotiations, contracts, partnerships, romance, relationships. You should know by then what's draining you, or again, what is working for you. So you'll be okay, obviously. But these are my massive standouts for you as a Capricorn rising for the month of June 2024. Take care, Capricorn rising, and I'll see you next video.